So this just came pretty naturally to us. I mean, we've been making videos since we met. Basically, for the moment we realized we were both creative minds, we wanted to make stuff. And then suddenly we were adults, and then we were now capable of making real budget films. So it was during COVID. Obviously we were hanging out a lot with not a lot else to do, and we were just going for a lot of runs and just shooting out ideas, and most of them were just awful. But then this one came out, and we both kind of paused, and we were like, wait a second, let's turn this into a short film. And then before we knew it, it was a feature. So that's kind of how it came about. Also, by the way, it's worth mentioning that those students that you see in that film are our actual students. Ben is a New York City Department of Ed teacher at a high school in the South Bronx. All the students that you saw on screen are his real students. So, yeah. So it's very metaphysical in many layers. The whole idea of struggling to raise money and budget cuts, that's real. That happens. That wasn't even really Little Shop of Horrors, in case you didn't notice. We couldn't afford the rights. So yeah, there's a lot of layers to it, and on the addiction side, I think there's someone who's a little more well-equipped to speak about it.
Hi, I'm Eli, and I'm an alcoholic. Just kidding, no. But is there a question specifically, or just?
We were talking about the addiction aspect of the film.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just gives a little bit more gravity to the situation. Specifically, I don't know. I mean, I feel like there needs to be like a specific question.
Well, the role was written to be a lot more lighthearted. And we stumbled upon, I mean, Ben knew Eli beforehand, and we just kind of stumbled upon him as an option to act the role. And he sent us the audition tape, and we were just floored. It completely changed the entire scope of the character. Suddenly there was gravity, there was darkness, there was weight to it. It was a counterbalance to the goofiness and the silliness of everything else that you see on screen. So, you know, credit to Eli for really filling out that character and just giving it life. And yeah, that's right, yeah. Yeah, so that was kind of the, you know, I think it's a very Jewish theme when you talk about dark and heavy things, but intersperse it with humor. So we were just kind of doing our thing, I guess, and it just kind of all came together in this lovely little marriage story.
More on the students. I think we should talk. Do you want to talk about the DOE a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. One of the, I mean, correct me where I'm wrong, but one of the ways this movie was able to be made is those students that are real high school students that you see acting in the film also worked on the movie in very well-paying PA positions. What else did they do? Mostly PA. Yeah. And that was all made possible through a grant by the Department of Education, and as sort of like summer employment. And a lot of these kids have gone on to want to continue in the industry, and sorry. To me, that is one of the most special things about this film, is the opportunities that it provided for those kids from acting in the film. They can join the union if they want. And they all have real on-set experience above and below the line now, so that's pretty unique, I think. Do you want to add to that?
I agree, it's pretty unique, yeah. So Ben and I started a filmmaking program at his high school 2 years ago, and it's still going strong, by the way, and we taught them the ins and outs of film production, and this was kind of the culmination of that. I mean, like you mentioned, they were getting job offers off the set. Like, they're working in the industry, when they're getting full ride scholarships to film school in the city. It's really a fantastic thing to see, and there's nothing like experiential learning, you know, just being in it to teach you. I mean, they were better than a lot of our crew. Don't tell them. I mean, they're not here, so I can say whatever I want, I guess. Something about, you know, kids becoming adults who are trying to prove themselves, they go above and beyond. So, highly recommend hiring high school students.
They love to stay late.
Yeah, oh my God, so those rooftop scenes were like 2 or 3 a.m. So, you know, SAG regulation, we have to dismiss the students by sundown. You know, by Shabbat. No, but yeah, it's just very much kind of the way things go. So we dismiss them, and then we go up, like hours go by, and we're racing against the clock, and we're up on that roof at 3 a.m., and suddenly, like, you know, from a hidden position crouch, they pop up, and they're like, oh wow, this is a cool scene. And we're like, what are you doing here? Like, you gotta go. But just a testament to how much fun they had, and you know, they were in it, and they wanted to be in it till the very end. And yeah, like you said, they're SAG eligible, which, you know, that can mean many things depending on when you say it. You know, it's it's a really special. That was a huge chunk. And working with grants, you know, government, the fact that the government helped fund this thing also just kind of speaks to, you know, the budget aspect of this thing. The value of this film came from just resources that we were handed. The DOE gave us grants to hire these students and to work behind and in front of the camera. We had access to this insane, like, magic studio in Detroit. This was half filmed in Detroit, by the way. Yeah, the first half was in Detroit. Yeah, Detroit, yeah. And the second half was in New York City. And we got access to this insane studio. It was an old car plant that it's like a mile-long warehouse that now has, you know, is just full of props. And this guy was like, yeah, sure, you know, I've always wanted to make a feature. So it was kind of a perfect storm in that sense. We just went over. It was worth it for us to fly our New York crew, house them, feed them for what, like 12 days, I think?
We were in Detroit for like 2 weeks.
For 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You got a mic as well. Yeah. Interrupt me, please. Yeah.
Living at the Marriott.
Yeah, living at the Marriott, Bonvoy points. And it was still cheaper than doing it in New York, which is wild. And Detroit has lost their film commission, and they're really trying to get it back, and we are at the forefront of that. Of course, we support it. Detroit's a great place to film. As you can see seamlessly, there are scenes of Bernstein leaving the subway in New York, and then the next shot is him walking through Detroit, and it probably all looks like the same place, right? So it's possible. Highly recommend it. If things are expensive for you locally, go elsewhere. Yeah.
How long was your shoot?
We filmed it all in 19 days.
Wow.
Yeah. It was 19 days of just pure joy. And Rough Cut was done 4 months later, and then a year from the day that we wrapped, we had our premiere, or our advanced screening in Detroit. So it was a pretty quick turnaround. Yeah.
What did the students think when they saw
the students? They loved it. They were begging us, like we were being very strict about kind of showing cuts. I mean, there are people in this audience who I've sent the rough cut out to. Thank you for putting up with that. But for the students, we really wanted them to see like the final product. But they were, wow. We had a big opening, a big New York premiere, and they got to be there. They were part of the Q&A and everything. I think they were just kind of shocked. It was just like, wow. So this is what we were doing.
Yeah.
So it was really validating. It was a good feeling.
Can you talk about the way that you work together with your two actors?
Yeah. So, well, a little background. I mean, do you want to talk about how you know Ben? Like,
yeah, how you all came to the
Sure.
Yeah.
Film. Does this work? Does this work? Yeah. I've known Ben a very long time, over 10 years, but we've never made a movie together. And when the opportunity presented itself, I mean, I've loved Ben's writing since we were like teenagers, literally, and so I was really excited, and I read for it. Did you read for it?
I read for it.
I read for it. It was really amazing to watch him wear these two hats of simultaneously, or God, maybe 4 hats. He's acting, he's producing and writing, and then also he's being his like teacher self, and those kids are all calling him Mr. all day. It's like, it's very you know, it's heartwarming to see your view of a friend expanded in that way, and watch them excel at their craft, and watch them be so admired. So that was pretty awesome, and I was very fortunate to also work with a few other old friends on this movie, including our producer Nick Sagnani, who I've known artistically. We all came up and went to drama school together for a long time, but not since we all transitioned over from doing theater into doing film. And so to find out that we all sort of speak the same language, it's like finding out that that secretly, like, we're all fluent in Portuguese. It was very cool.
Yeah, I met Ben working at an Israeli restaurant in New York, and we barely knew each other, and he came up to me after a week, and he was like, I'm gonna write something one day and you're gonna be in it. And I was like, oh, this guy again. I mean, you hear that as an actor so many times, like, oh, I'm gonna put you in something, I'm gonna put you in something. And then about 2 years later, I was living in LA and he had no idea. And I was in New York randomly for 5 days. And on my last night, I just got out of a Broadway show. And I see a text from Ben and he's like, hey, I wrote something. I told you I was gonna write something. I wanna put you in it. Can you get coffee? And I'm like, dude, I'm flying back to LA tomorrow morning. He's like, oh, what time? I have to leave for JFK at 10. Okay, let's meet for coffee at 8. So I meet Ben and Amnon for coffee. I'd never met Amnon before. He kind of told me the premise and I was like, this sounds insane. And then sent me the script. I read it on the way home, and then back to the addiction thing. When I understood that the character had an addiction, and I mean, it's a comedy, it's like a buddy comedy movie, and I just wanted to bring a little bit more weight to the project in general. I mean, I just like it when it's a light subject, you know, helping the kids. It's a musical, it's high school teachers. And, you know, these high school teachers have lives and they had dreams and they tried to do stuff and maybe things didn't work out. So I kind of wanted to bring that kind of aspect to the character.
You certainly did.
It's worth mentioning, this was a project made with friends. I mean, pretty much everyone who had like a significant role was someone that we at one point in our lives had met. The guy who played Ben Zadie, that was mine and Ben's high school theater teacher.
Oh my God.
And if you were here now, he would say, you know, that's why it's always good to stay in touch with your students, because you never know when they're going to get you a job. So I feel like it's my duty to, you know, to convey that. And he really embodied this character of, Ben and I were very close to our grandfathers and just our grandparents in general. So it was dedicated. So it was just very important for us to have people who we knew could fill all these roles, you know, and we trusted, what more can you trust than your friends? So it just kind of, it gelled together very nicely.
So tell me a little bit more about the game itself and how much research you had to do to sort of, you know, make this whole thing come together.
I've been playing YANIV for a decade. It's hard work, it's really tough. Sometimes you play for money and you win. I won a lot of money from her at a rap party. Yeah. Sorry, I know that was...
Oh, I thought she would have kicked your butt.
Say about how good I am. Yeah.
Well, no, you're great. It's just you know, I'm better. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. I'm kidding. So the story behind it. So I was living in Israel in my early 20s, and I'm sorry, that was mean of me to say. Yeah, I was living in Israel in my early 20s, and that's when I learned the game. And it's very popular amongst our generation of Israelis. It was learned on the road, Israeli backpackers after the army. Theories are, you know, in Nepal or, you know, South America. It's unclear, but it was learned on, you know, on the trails. So that's kind of where it came from. Of course, we turned it into a very mythical, you know, ancient biblical game for the sake of this movie. But, you know, we like to push that narrative as well.
Yeah, I grew up in Israel, and it's a big military game. So we would gamble, and you make like $150 a month in the Israeli military. You think if Jews control the world and have all the money, we would be making more than that. But so we would gamble on cigarettes, or you would have to switch me 30 minutes early or an hour early on my guard posts, stuff like that. But it's a very popular game in Israel. Everyone knows how to play. It's it is the blackjack of the Jewish people.
Yeah. And when Israelis see this movie, they're like, what? Because it's just like, it's what, Hasidic men? So we love getting that reaction.
How'd you pick Rego Park?
Rego Park, well, a huge theme of this film is just the diversity of New York and just how everyone is crammed into these, tiny spaces with these paper-thin walls where, you punch a hole through and suddenly you're seeing a whole different world, right? Rego Park is literally like the epitome of New York diversity. There is so much Queens in general. I mean, more languages spoken in Queens than anywhere else in the world, actually. It's a wild demographic to have, and we just love having New York as the backdrop. We liked having Detroit as well, but actually having, Rego Park.
It's funny, my grandparents were from there. It was not so diverse then.
Yeah.
It's much more now.
A lot more now.
Yeah. So talk about your playing, YANIV.
What, my role?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
I learned the game in the context of the movie, and I'm very good at it.
That's great. It's really good.
Sometimes.
Pretty good today.
It didn't take a lot of research to adapt the whole gambling thing. I play cards a fair amount. YANIV is a great game. It's a great game to gamble. I mean, the YANIV Club doesn't exist, but it definitely should.
Well, I think we can neither confirm nor deny the existence of the YANIV Club. If you guys find one or make one, let us know. Funnily, Lisa Loggins, who was here on Wednesday, I think. Yeah, she came to set. She played Zadie's helper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that video that you see of how to play, that was our proof of concept, actually. And so we uploaded that to YouTube like a year before we started filming. So she came to set and we were like, we should teach you how to play YANIV. And she's like, no worries, I saw that official video. And we're like, what video? And then she sees Adam Shapiro, who plays Mendy, on set. She's like, that's the guy! And we're like, what? He's like, that's the guy who does the YANIV video. So already it was kind of making the rounds. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Great story about Adam Shapiro. Do you want to tell it?
Use the other mic.
You can, which?
Oh my God. It's much better. I was gonna say, do you want to tell the great story about Adam Shapiro in the YANIV Club?
Oh, of course, yeah. So, some of the greatest moments of this film came from just happy accidents. Like, when everything crashes and burns and Murphy's Law is laughing at you, which happened every day, we had some phenomenal improvised moments. Mendy's scene where he's doing his Machra of Ceremonies bit and singing, improvised on the spot. We had like 7 klezmer musicians lined up to play with us, and one by one they're like, this is taking too long. Which, it's an indie film, of course it's gonna take forever, but they weren't ready for it. So one by one they dropped off, and suddenly we're like, we don't have an act. And we had this whole section of film where we needed an act. And Adam B. Shapiro happens to be an incredibly talented musical theater actor. He was in Yiddish Fiddler off-Broadway and nailed it. He is now touring the nation, playing Tevye everywhere he can. Everyone wants him. It's crazy. He's extremely talented. So he was able to go up there and just shine. And he always says also, like, had he had time to prepare it, he would not have been able to do it because of the nerves. So it just kind of worked, We just put him up there and say, all right, do it, perform. And he was like, okay. And then he did it. Yeah, he was phenomenal. He helped us with the proof of concept. He was on board from the very first draft, which we went through like 17 drafts, by the way, before that's nothing compared to most movies. But yeah, he believed in it before, at least in my opinion, there was much to believe in. So thank you, Adam.
How long did it take from the first idea until you had your 17th version?
Yeah, Ben and I, the first draft was written in 5 weeks, and then draft 17 a year later. After much criticism and critique, yes.
Talk about the Rebbe.
I was just gonna.
Yeah, so the Rebbe was played by me. I put on my makeup tonight, so you can't see all the that was a childhood fantasy of mine. Since I was a child, I've wanted to run around the suburbs terrorizing people in an old man mask. And I thought it would be a lot more fun than it was. That was not fun at all. That was 6 hours of sweating with nowhere for the sweat to go, migraines, needing to direct in that thing. I was blind and deaf. I was like, action. They're like, we're not filming. I'm, oh, okay, you know. Lots of ibuprofen. We had like our Detroit casting director come on set, and I'd never met her before, so of course I went to talk to her. We had a lovely conversation for 20 minutes, and then I realized she has no idea what I look like because I was dressed like the Rebbe the entire time, and it was absurd. You know, I definitely questioned at the time if it was worth it, but I think it was. I enjoy that moment and surprising you guys with that. Yeah, so.
Fun Detroit.
Yeah.
Another fun Detroit makeup story is we started filming in Detroit, and the way our shoot was sequenced, we did all the YANIV Club stuff first, and I'm in every single setup in the YANIV Club. I'm there wearing my beard and it was so itchy, and but it just meant that for the first week of this job, I sat in the makeup chair every day and got this put on, and the way I've got all three actually. The way someone's got to do it. The way you know it worked out on the call sheet is that YANIV Club Deb is an entirely different character than regular Deb, and so you know we're just doing some bookkeeping, going in and out, you know, checking in and out for the day, and there are people who just have no idea I'm in the rest of the movie, and I'm sitting there thinking, in what world is it worth it to dress me up in full drag every day when you could just get a guy, you know?
Wouldn't have been the same.
Wouldn't have been the same. But I finally got to go barefaced and speak words maybe on day like 6 or something, and that was the best.
And you were glowing.
It's funny, I was looking because I'd seen it before, and I was looking for you, and I'm like, where? No, that can't be her. Oh no, that can't be her.
Yeah, we adamantly wanted her in every scene so that it had replay value. You know, like if you watch it again, you're gonna see her. She's in every scene in that club. It's wild.
But I couldn't identify which one she was.
Wait for Amazon Prime.
Yeah, now you can play, pause, circle, and then upload it to Reddit. Yeah.
Move over, Yentl.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You want to take some questions?
Yeah.
I didn't know that it was real. I thought it was made up, and I think you did a really great job in making a movie about it, but I especially love the twist in the end, seeing all the Hasidim filling up the theater because it shows, you know, that you really did have a heart and wanted to, you know, that they cared for or whatever. What he was doing, what his mission was, even though he got in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we appreciate it. I mean, it's a very strong Jewish message. You know, it's like, sure, you take accountability for your issues, for your problems, and be responsible. But you know, they're there to support. I will say, if you've ever tried to get 900 Hasidic men into an auditorium at once, it's incredibly hard to do, I imagine, because we didn't. We actually, that's just 5 people copied and pasted over and over again. Including me, actually. I'm in that. Yeah, so it's that was some amazing.
I think it's like 5 crew members copying.
Correct. It is 5 crew members dressed as Hasidim in that audience, just copied and pasted over and over again until my computer blew up. But it came out not bad. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
That's great.
Actually, YANIV clubs exist in Europe.
Yeah. We can neither confirm nor deny that. But I encourage you to go to New York and search for one. Oh, the question? Yeah, do YANIV clubs exist in New York?
Oh.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, young man.
Yes, hello, one was like, so it was tough playing the Arabic and direct at the same time. How did you manage to shuffle through that? You know, like come to certain navigate and shout.
So how did I manage to shuffle through playing the Rebbe and directing at the same time? I shuffled. Literally, I just shuffled around from place to place. Again, it was mostly just ibuprofen. I mean, I cannot emphasize how awful that was. I read an article recently about how Jim Carrey played the Grinch and how he actually trained with a Navy SEAL who trained him in like withstanding torture. At least I didn't have the contact lenses, but I kind of get it now. Like that, there is nothing fun about wearing a mask for 6 hours a day. And it takes like an hour to put on as well. I mean, there was both the makeup artist and the prosthetics artist. So it was a full-on episode in that sense. Sheer willpower. I don't know what else to say. It was just slow death. Yeah. Oh, so the other question is why Little Shop? So Ben did Little Shop in high school. So it just kind of came naturally to him as something that was fun, easily recognizable. I'm sure everyone here has heard of Little Shop, and you know, so, some people are familiar with it. They get a kick out of the fact that we completely changed all the lyrics and just made like a bizarro world Little Shop. So it was just kind of like, you know, it landed that way.
Yeah,
both the words and the melody have nothing to do with Little Shop. Completely altered.
And also, he came up with them on the spot.
Yes, that was improv.
He said to the kids,
He said to the kids, oh God, we don't have the rights. Sing this, like 4 times. Yeah, he made it up. Wow. That moment.
Good, you wouldn't know.
So first of all, there was so many things that I loved about this movie. But one thing that really stood out to me, which is so unusual, I see some filmmakers doing it in, bigger movies, but I don't see it as much as you'd see, let's say, like earlier on in filmmaking. Like all of these really interesting visuals, like cartoons over it, and this, very first video that you guys started with, it's just how did that come about?
So you're referring to the explainer video or the animation or
Animation.
The animation?
All of everything that wasn't just shot with a camera.
Got it. Yeah. So you're asking about just kind of like the magical, you're right. So my background, the past decade, I've been a graphic designer and animator. So all the animation, that's me. I can't help myself. I have to, yeah. So really, and it gives it a lot of value too. I mean, it's nice to pull you out of reality a little bit and just have, the fantasy element of it.
I mean, I loved it.
Well, thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, it was fun to make. Yeah.
Humorous question was going to be, where can you find a unique gamer out here? But I think somebody already asked that one.
Correct.
But a more serious question, a couple of them. Did you shoot this under SAG rules? You've got a lot of filmmakers around here. Was everything done according to Guild? Budget, if you wanted to disclose it, because there's a lot of small filmmakers, and trying to make a small film is really an interesting exercise. I've been involved in some of that. And finally, a question on the religious aspects. I'm always concerned that humor can be based on different groups within our Jewish community, and that we should treat them with respect, and that some of the humor, and you see some Jewish movies where people will make fun of other groups within the Jewish community or treat them in a way that they would find disrespectful, and I always worry about that.
Yeah.
I've got family members actually who've done some movies that I consider to have, they're looking for the humor, so they'll make fun of the Orthodox community. It's an easy target in some ways. But I worry about that, and we wouldn't treat other groups sometimes maybe with the same disrespect we might use for our own people in a way. And so I wonder if you've thought about that. I'm not knowledgeable enough about Orthodox stuff to be able to express an opinion that's meaningful about whether or not anything was done that an Orthodox person sitting here might say, hey, that bothers me.
Sure.
Did you think about that? So those are
So, okay, you had 3 questions. One was about, were we respectful to the Orthodox community? 2 was a budget question. And remind me the first question? SAG, yeah. Yeah. So, yes, this was union. Absolutely. We stuck strictly to the rules when we could. I'm kidding, yeah. No, we were, this was union. This was absolutely union. And we abided by those rules, and we made sure our actors felt comfortable and safe. And I hope we did a good job. Validation. The budget was very little and not enough. And again, like I'll bring back to the point that a lot of the value of this film came from just resources that we had. So working with, you know, the little that we had, we were able to make something that was a lot grander in scale than one would imagine. About respecting the Orthodox community, we were very careful. We had a rabbinical consultant throughout the entire process. This film has received 2 stamps of approval from different Chabad rabbis. We have had ultra-Orthodox members come see it. Honestly, it's a little hard to get them out to see it, just because it's not really their thing, but those that have come and seen it have loved it. In fact, we even had B&H employees come out and see it. And he was like, I was honored to be, you know, for the shout out. So yes, we have been we were very careful to be mindful and respectful. And in general, the message is a very respectful message. We don't lean into stereotypes. This is a original Jewish story celebrating being Jewish.
Can I say something about that too?
Yeah.
It's a great question when it comes to the Jewish community, because even before October 7th and just seeing the rise of anti-Semitism in America over the past couple of years. And when I read the script, I was like, I had that voice in my head being like, oh, like, I know most of the cast is Jewish, but a lot of the crew is not Jewish, and how is this going to be perceived? And, you know, Jews, gambling, money, whatever it may be. And I was like, I had this heightened awareness throughout the whole production. And I was happily surprised. We really didn't deal, maybe a joke or two there, which was called out by somebody. But for the most part, people were really respectful, didn't, you know, dig down into those dirty places, and yeah, happily surprised. I don't know if that happens all the time with any community, whether it be Jewish, Muslim, whatever it may be. But happily surprised. It was a good time.
I will say also, so the Hasidic men in Detroit, it was hard to find because they were not. This was during COVID. They needed to be vaccinated and take testing, and they didn't want to do either of those things. So we ended up finding a bulk of our Hasidic men in Armenian bikers. Sorry, Albanian bikers. You know, if you need bearded men, look no further than Craigslist. And the Jewish elements, it's interesting how, apart from just the fantasy side of things, even in production, it showed itself in really cool ways. Like our final night filming, we needed a place to store equipment. And we found it at the Rigo Park Chabad. And it was a funny story because I called the guy up and I was like, hey, can we do this? And he's like, yeah, sure, no problem. And he hung up before I asked how much it would cost. So I was a little nervous about it. So then we come over and then, you know, we meet the guy and he's super friendly and he's like, all right, well, you want to do wrap to fill in with me? And I was like, are you kidding me? We're about to start filming. So I laugh and then he pulls out this plastic bag with to fill in. He's like, no, literally, that's what I want. So that was our payment. We had to wrap to fill in with the Chabad rabbi in Rigo Park with everyone watching, the entire crew. He took a photo and suddenly the Chabad rabbi in Cleveland was texting us the same photo within like 5 seconds. I mean, you think social media is fast, these guys are faster. But yeah, it was just kind of touching, you know, and you also wrapped to fill in. Yeah, it was just like, all right, we're doing the thing, you know, to make a Jewish film. So yeah, it permeated everything.
That's pretty cool.
Whose idea was it to do the scene where you go into your house? That was hilarious. That was so good.
Yeah, that was one of those things that we wrote and we were like, this has to happen exactly as we have envisioned it. And it was fun to watch on the monitor, even as it's being filmed. Yeah.
Okay, one more question? Yeah.
Sorry, I know it's getting late, but I did notice there were a few nods towards sexism in the film, and like a few like light jokes about it. Did you think at all about delving a little bit more into that, or like what that difference is?
Can you repeat her question?
Yeah, so a question about the sexism element in the film and whether we thought about delving more into it. We absolutely did. In fact, there's material on the cutting room floor that unfortunately just couldn't make it in. Editing a film features a brutalistic process.
You took 25 minutes out?
30 actually. 30 minutes have been cut since the rough cut. And there were a lot more Deb moments. And my God, I would love to make more Deb stuff. Deb is an incredible character. And of course, Annabelle did it complete justice. And she had a whole backstory. In fact, in the casino sequence, we wanted her she is in the background. it happened so fast and we ran out of time, you couldn't focus on it. There was this whole alternate life where you see into her history and understand how she came to where she is today, that due to just budgetary constraints and stress and editing issues and whatnot, it just couldn't make it in. But of course, yeah, there's a lot more that can and will hopefully one day be explored there. Sequel in the word, yeah. But thank you, yeah. But yeah, that's it was a topic that we felt was important to include. And if you think about it, the only person who won that night at the YANIV Club was Deb. So, you know, it just goes to show that Bernstein and Jonah were wrong, especially Bernstein, and Deb saved the day. They have a play because of Deb. So it's a nod towards the fact that you do not underestimate, you know, someone based on old sexist laws, and we stand by that.